Hi everyone, thank you for tuning in. Today we will be making more simple yet still interesting illustrations with backstories behind them. Today's story is about the different shapes and forms of love, so let's get started. This one is definitely for all levels. I will be explaining my creative process and also sharing a few tips on how to make illustrations more interesting without needing any advanced skills. Well, some of you might have seen me struggle with drawing a simple square in the previous video, so this time around, you are spared. If you are new, just for some context, I wanted to create Polaroid postcards and leave a space for a little message because, well, I love doing that. Again, I am using my Winsor & Newton watercolor postcards. Obviously, you don't need any fancy kind of paper. This is just what I'm using today. Also, as the title suggests, I will be using a normal ballpoint pen, so you, my friend, don't have any excuses. If you watched the last video, you already know this, but I'm gonna repeat it because it's crucial. I personally think that it is very helpful to limit your workspace by creating a frame. When you have a large blank piece of paper in front of you, it is only natural that it will be very intimidating. But once you have a square or a circle or rectangle on there, you feel like you have a starting base, and that's always a good thing. So, create a frame. For this one, we're gonna make a frame within a frame. So, sketch curved lines on the edges, make them as crazy as you want, and double them. Then, add leaves. You now have a solid frame to which you can add whatever you want. You can put a message inside and actually send it as a postcard. If you enjoy calligraphy, maybe write something cool inside and, well, show me. I would love to see it. The inking is pretty straightforward. Just use your normal ball pen to trace your sketch. Which brings me to our tip of the day, details. Adding details makes your illustration much more interesting. These details do not have to be complicated. Just adding veins to your leaves, or grass to your ground, or little stars to your sky makes a whole lot of difference. Sometimes I find myself just adding random dots here and there, and somehow they end up really enriching the illustration. So definitely try to do it and see if it works for you. I want to add that I am a self-taught artist. These tips could have fancy names, but I just learned by doing, and I'm just sharing my experience with you. Now that we're done with the frame, let's draw something inside. My first thought was a lotus flower because, well, that's my favorite flower. But then I thought, let's make this more interesting. Now that we're done with the frame, let's draw something inside. My first thought was a lotus flower because, well, that's my favorite flower. And then I thought, let's make this more interesting. So I decided to draw a nest. And in the nests, there are eggs. And on the eggs, there's a beautiful blanket being knit by a tiny human. Again, for the human, I am making a very generic shape, nothing too detailed because we want to keep it simple. Moving on to story time. Despite how it looks, this one is actually a little sad. As you may have guessed, these beautiful eggs do not have a mother. They were found by a kind lady in the forest who decided that she wanted to protect them until they hatched. She hurried back to her home and got her knitting tools and sat down next to the eggs and started knitting day and night until she covered the eggs with a very warm blanket. However, she knew in her heart that the eggs will never hatch. They were too cold for too long, and the blanket was far from enough to bring them back to life. But she couldn't stop. She put all her hope in the eggs and a lot of love in the thread, and she continued knitting. So let me know what you think about this one. Do you think efforts still count when they're meaningless? Should hope defy reality? Or maybe in simpler terms, are you a realist or an idealist? I would love to hear your ideas about this one. It sure made me think for quite some time. But this is what we love about art, right? I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope the story intrigued you, but most importantly, I hope you are inspired to pick up your pen and draw something. Finally, try to put a lot of love in your efforts and a lot of efforts in your love, and take care. Goodbye.